I want to read you something I wrote over Twitter about the NFL and the Rashee Rice and Cam Sutton incidents involving the NFL. In 2007, the NFL instituted a player conduct policy intended to clean up the image and address the bad behavior of its players. Corporate media and bloggers like Mark Florio pressured Roger Goodell into becoming the law and order commissioner. 17 years later, it's quite clear the player conduct policy is a total failure. Over the weekend, 2 NFL players were wanted fugitives for serious crimes. Rice involved in a car chase, a race that led to an accident and a woman getting hurt and a child potentially getting hurt. Cam Sutton has been wanted for several weeks down in Florida for his involvement in a domestic violence issue. Rice, obviously the receiver for the Chiefs. Sutton, a defensive back for the Detroit Lions. And so I go on to point out the only thing that has changed since 2007 is corporate media and Mike Florio were incentivized to pick new topics. They eventually pivoted to the NFL's races. Colin Kaepernick and NFL players need to lead criminal justice reform. And what about Brett Favre? You can't make this up. Florio used to have a ticker with a countdown to when the next NFL player will get arrested. Why doesn't he have a ticker now for when the next player is going to surrender to authorities? The media, they pick and choose which crisis they want you to get emotional about. The crisis they manipulate you with today will be the exact same crisis they will ignore tomorrow. NFL player conduct policy, a complete and total failure. Nothing's changed.
Jason, I think what is going on here with the way the media has almost not just kid gloves treatment, but hands-off treatment of those who break the law. And we're not talking about speeding tickets or just moving violations or a parking ticket. We're talking about putting other lives in danger. To me, this is very reflective of what has taken place the last, 4 to 5, 6 years, maybe longer, in terms of criminal justice reform, about how crime is now about the past. It is not about individual responsibility. It's about generational trauma and all these other terms that they're going to gin up to basically excuse the behavior and place no accountability on the individuals. And Jason, I'll be honest with you, doing something of that nature, that Rashee Rice, who is now running a go pattern because nobody can find him. Where is he, by the way? Basically seemed to be playing a game, a real life game of pole position, preparing to qualify. And it's one thing to do drag racing out in a deserted street or an area where there's nobody except 2 guys that can get hurt in their vehicles. When you're putting other lives at stake, that to me is just despicable behavior. Coming home from the Super Bowl a couple of months ago, Jason, I was getting off about a mile or so from my off ramp. I ran into one of those situations where several cars were weaving in and out of traffic, luxury vehicles at a very high speed or rate. And one of them almost clipped me. And it's a scary, helpless feeling. And the guy was able to swerve and dart in and out. And I said to myself, you know what? I nearly wrecked here, and it was no fault of my own. And I have absolutely no sympathy for men that that put the others in situations that can harm them physically. And I don't get it. But the bottom line is this. The reason why guys like Florio no longer harp upon it like they once did is that there's now a movement to excuse this behavior, and they don't want to be branded as racist. They don't want to be branded as not understanding. And it's all now part of this whole, like I said, criminal justice reform movement that many of the players themselves advocate for. And I think maybe in their own way, it's because, you know what, they feel as though they themselves are above the law or should not have to live to them.
Steve, and I haven't thought this through, but aren't there more examples of NFL or professional athletes being involved in some sort of violent crime situation or damaging crime situation than there are examples of unarmed black men getting shot? And so if they can all take knees and protest and, there's this pandemic, unarmed black people are getting shot, I can rattle off more examples in my mind, I think, of NFL players on pretty regularly running really afoul of the law, and potential NFL players, from the Jalen Carter when he was at Georgia, I believe, and just, but you won't. And I'm telling you, I lived during this time in 2005, 2006, 2007, when there was all this buildup. The NFL's got to get their players under control, and they need a personal conduct policy, and Roger Goodell's got to do X, Y, and Z to clean it up. And now they just, all these same guys I've watched just pivot to ignoring it and pretending like George Floyd is the plague.
Jason, keep this in mind where we are in society today. And I think a lot of the coverage of any athlete that gets into trouble, and we're talking here specifically about the National Football League and Rice and Cam Sutton, we now have a situation because of the criminal justice reform movement that not only are criminals getting freed, there's the no cash bail system, which basically puts a lot of people that commit physical crime. We're not talking about getting caught urinating on a sidewalk at midnight. Okay, that's a little bit different. I think those are petty crimes. You give a citation, you move on. But we're talking about serious offenders of assault and any type of physical violence. There's almost no repercussions. It's as if that law-abiding citizens, for the most part, are now not only in danger, but we are the ones now, if we point it out, we become the perpetrators. And I just find it baffling to me that we are now treating criminals as the ones who are the victims. And it all ties into this. I think about it. There are cities now that will not put out mugshots. This is the God's honest truth. They will not put out mugshots, and because they feel as though it's racist. If you look at certain cities across America today, they all have a certain template in terms of who is leading them, in terms of their sex, race, gender, all that stuff, right? And they all have these soft on-crime policies that seem to extend into the media. Because if the media did a deep dive over who's doing the crime, what is the nature of the crime, and what are the ramifications of that crime, they themselves would get a lot of blowback. It's almost as if corporate America themselves across the board cannot report on this honestly.
Steve, I'm going to move a little bit out of the sports world just to back up your point about like where the mentality is gone and what it's leading to, how it's criminals and people with a criminal mindset are so emboldened now that, I don't know if you saw this, but we have a young woman that works at the Blaze named Lauren Chin. Great host, somewhat strong values, character. Some psychopath put out a video threatening her and her family and saying, I want to come see you because I want you to tell me to my face that I don't deserve reparations. And he said, you need to be dealt with. And you know, talks about he's got family members, gang family members in the Nashville area. And I'm just like, how does he have the audacity to put this out on video and on tape? But it speaks to like where the culture is right now, that the actual criminals feel so emboldened that you know what, I'll put my threats out on tape. No, I won't be talking to some other rapper. No, I'm going to talk this crazy to a woman out in front of everybody because she says I don't deserve reparations. We've moved into a place of insanity that again, like the media, and yesterday on the show, I was talking to JB about Kim Mulkey and just what's gone on with, you can't correct people, you can't do criticism anymore. And I always just go back to the media and how the media has like set up this environment and this culture. Steve, I want to play the clip, and I know you've seen it, but I want the audience to see it, of this man talking crazy to Lauren Chin.
I distinctly told you that I wanted you to tell me that I don't deserve reparations to my face. Quoting a tweet and telling me that I don't deserve reparations is not the proper response to what I requested. The proper request would be to send your address. Okay? I want you and your husband to tell me to my face that I don't deserve reparations. I want your husband to be there, and I want all your little white trolls, your little sexually frustrated white trolls who back you up on Twitter to be there as well. And I'll make you change your opinion. Because you see, what we're not going to do, I'm not going to allow a foreigner to disrespect me in my own country. I'm not going to allow a foreigner to reside in the town that my great grandparents built. Okay? Johnny Somali learned this the hard way. When he came to Japan and disrespected the natives there, he got dealt with, and you will get dealt with.
It's insanity, but it doesn't surprise me based on where we are in the culture.
Well, again, I think this scholar here doesn't understand the concept of citizenship. Okay. The other thing is, like, the fact that, he has family members in a gang, maybe that's a deeper rooted problem than needing reparations. Let's just leave it at that. But again, the word that you use is emboldened. When there are no consequences for breaking the law, and last I checked, making terroristic threats is breaking the law. But, coming up on this theme here, if you want to go further, look, squatting seems to be a bigger issue now, where people are just brazenly moving into properties that they do not own, that are vacated for a period of time, and they just move in. And it's lunacy to me that we still have squatters' rights. The squatters' rights should be you have an hour to move out once you are exposed as living in a property that you do not own or rent legally. But there are certain jurisdictions where the property owners are actually at a disadvantage. So this all kind of goes in line with the lowering of the bar of societal norms and rules and regulations and laws. I don't know if there's any turning back from it, to be honest with you. But, I'm not excusing any behavior from anybody. But athletes themselves are looking around what's going on thinking, you know what? I could break the law, and in 24 hours, I'm out. I'm good. There really are no ramifications for being somebody, for lack of a better term, that is doing criminal activity.
And it actually makes you a better candidate for a TV job post-career. And I say that, and you think I'm being funny, but go check it. Who gets hired at a lot of these television networks